So Jadeveon Clowney is now on his 4th team in 4 years, yet another 1-year prove-it deal for the 3rd year in a row, although technically the 1 year with Seattle was a trade, and then, took a 1-year prove-it deal with Tennessee and did not prove it, so now he's trying to prove it this year with Cleveland, although, let's be honest, the money he's getting per year, not that bad. I mean, he can't get hurt, that would be an issue, but still getting some pretty decent money. So not the worst thing in the world to take these 1-year deals as long as you stay healthy. But as for Clowney as a player, I actually think the weird thing has happened where I'm going to compare him to the movie Avatar, the James Cameron movie with the blue alien dudes, because I feel like Avatar was the kind of thing where people hyped it up as some great movie, and it became so overrated that I think it is now underrated, and I actually think it's a movie that it's worth a watch. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's pretty good, and I think that people act like it's the worst movie of all time when it isn't. Well, that's kind of Clowney now, where people thought he was going to be the superstar. I think, this was one of my calls where I said it's not going to work in Tennessee. It didn't, but, I think at this point, this is the right situation for him, and there is some real value here. Let's start off with this play. So we're going to just get into the film study, talk about what he does well. I think he'll bring a lot to Cleveland, quite frankly. This is going to be a running play, and kind of what he can do is he can just screw stuff up. He can just screw stuff up for an offense, where you're going to have, it's going to be a jet sweep, and Clowney, I've circled him in black. The tackle, who you would expect to block Clowney, is not going to do this. Because of the jet sweep, you just hope that the wide receiver can just run by him. But watch how Clowney reads it immediately, runs over, and knocks the ball out too, which ends up getting actually picked up. And, it almost would have been better if he just made a quick tackle, although obviously in a vacuum, you'd rather knock the ball out than make a quick tackle because you never know how it's going to bounce. But I think that's just, it goes to show what he can do. He can completely disrupt a play. He is that disruptor off the edge. That's, when you think of a disruptor off the edge, you should think of Jadeveon Clowney, because that's what he can do. Really talented play there, and just a smart play. He's a pretty smart player. This play is another great example. This is something that he brings to the table. This is him, again, against Pittsburgh, which I didn't even think about it until now, but that's a good thing for for the Browns to see, hey, he can play well against the Steelers. Okay, cool, great, because we play those guys a couple times a year, sometimes 3. What's going to happen on this play is it's going to be just a bull rush off the edge. It's not going to be the best move. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say Clowney's going to end up with 16 sacks or something. I mean, he's never been a double-digit sack guy, and he's, last year he had 0 in limited playing time for Tennessee, but what he can do is, one thing that I think that he does really well is he deflects passes. When he does get beat, which is usually, but every edge rusher gets beat usually, he can still find a way to help impact the play. Watch him run in, and he's going to be able to reach out, and he deflects this pass, and it's incomplete. So he does that really well. He has those long arms. Again, part of why I think he was drafted is just because of how he just looks like a person that, he looks like he was a robot built in a machine or something, built in a lab or something, with how just physically imposing he is with those long arms. Works really well for batting passes, and he knows it. He uses it very often. I remember he had that interception in the playoff game for Houston way back. That was in the Connor Cook playoff game with the Raiders, if you remember that one. So he can absolutely, he can do some damage. We'll now move on to this play, because quite frankly, a play like this is going to be the play that, this is just what Clowney is going to bring to Cleveland more than anything, is good run defense. He's a really good run defender, and no matter what you say about Clowney, no matter how big of a Clowney hater you are, pretty much everyone has to agree that his run defense is really good. On this play, he's going up one-on-one against a tight end, which you might say, well, yeah, he should win that matchup. And yes, he should, but this is going to be a run to the left side of the screen, which is why Denver is doing this. They wouldn't do this if it was going to be a run to the right. This is entirely supposed to be a run to the left the entire way. Right when this play starts, however, Clowney does an incredible job of getting by that tight end. What a move by him. The problem, though, is that there's just so much room on the left. Tennessee did not do a great job helping out Clowney really on this one. It's just Clowney trying to make the play on his own, and that was a lot of what happened with Tennessee, was they just did not have a ton around him to help him out, which Cleveland, oh, yeah, you got that Myles Garrett guy. I think you're going to be okay. So that's definitely a help. But watch how Clowney is still able to run over, and, he helps make the play. It's not anything crazy. But again, I think that play goes to show 2 things. 1, he can be explosive in the run game in terms of run defense. And 2, no one else on Tennessee could, for the most part. All with all due respect, they just had, they didn't have enough talent there to really help him out, which was an issue. When I move on to this one, which will be another example of showing what he can really do, this is something that's unique. So I've circled him in yellow. Yeah, he's basically playing like a stand-up backer role kind of thing right here. This is kind of what you'll see him do every now and then, just sort of walk around, and I actually think that this is what he does best. I made a video in the offseason last year where I said I think Clowney plays the wrong position. I think he's better as sort of a 3-4 defensive end than as a 4-3 defensive end or a outside linebacker. As in, I think he's better as a defensive tackle role than an edge rusher role. And really, that's not even totally true, because he's at his best when you can just be creative with him. And one thing he does really well is just sort of prance around the line, almost like a lion, pick a spot, and then attack. Watch him just completely get past that center in a second and make that quick tackle. It's almost like a safety role a little bit, which is, use him for that. Absolutely. That's something he brings to the table. Get creative with it, and I think it makes some sense. So he's someone that can just be sort of that unique player. But like I said, I also think he could be like a great guy to just line up against a guard and to win a matchup. Like right here, perfect example, where instead of having him be the edge, he now moves over, and you have a linebacker 53. He's the one who's going to play the edge, and now Clowney is going to be able to rush the passer from the inside right here. And watch him pull off this move, because he has the strength to be able to pull that kind of thing off and the hands to pull that thing off. He doesn't need a ton of space to make it work. Unfortunately, the ball still got complete because there was no help on the other side, and Locke had time to run around. But that's also part of what I think is going to be so great for Cleveland, is when he does that, that's great. Quarterback, you want to run to the outside, now you're running straight into Myles Garrett. So the fact that he's actually going to be on a good defensive line for the first time in what feels like forever is going to just be a huge blessing for him. We've seen that when he's on a bad defensive line, he's not going to get many sacks. I mean, he only had 3 for Seattle when he was the only guy that was rushing the passer there, and he didn't have any for Tennessee. So yes, if you put him on a bad defensive line, he's going to have issues, but he's not meant to be that player. He's meant to be someone who can really thrive on a good defensive line, and that's what he's going to do in Cleveland. So this is just a complete perfect fit for me, and I think that this is, again, I like a lot of what Kevin Stefanski does. This feels like such a smart, analytical move of, hey, let's get the guy who doesn't get a lot of sacks but can help us get more sacks because of what he can do by, disrupting things. And at a certain point, he might be able to get more sacks just because players will have less room to run. I've compared him in the past to a bull, where the reality is he's super strong. He doesn't necessarily have the great east and west speed east and west footwork that can really work towards getting to the sacks and finishing it, but he can disrupt things and just blow plays up. And that's what you're bringing him to do, is get him to disrupt things. Someone else will get the sack, and you're going to be happy for it. So yeah, I'm going to say that I like this move. It's interesting because Cleveland has done a very unique thing where they've kind of built their team a lot through free agency, whereas a lot of teams don't like to do that. And I think, the numbers say that you typically don't have that much success building a team through free agency. But the way they've done it has just been smart. They're not just throwing money at the top tier guys. They're throwing money at guys that they need and guys that can actually help their team. So again, a lot of guys they've added through free agency. Clowney is now another one who joins the list, and I think that this is a smart move too. I think they typically, yes, they're signing guys, but they're signing the right guys, in my opinion. Cleveland's looking like they could be another, they were a good team last year, so they should be even better this year. It could work out the other way, but I think it won't. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.